We're going to talk today about healthy elimination. This is a fun topic. There's a lot of crossover with healthy elimination and healthy digestion. And digestion's always a very big, expansive topic in Ayurveda because so much of our health is dependent on how well we digest our food. So in Ayurveda, we call our digestive fire, we call it Agni. This is the fire that lives in our belly, and we've used this term frequently here on these Sadhana Tuesdays, so you're probably familiar with that. And so our Agni is all about breaking down our food properly so that we can absorb it as nutrition into our tissue. And part of this healthy digestion is healthy elimination. So what is healthy elimination? Well, to put it bluntly, it's having a regular, consistent, well-formed bowel movement at least once a day. If we're not having one bowel movement a day, then Ayurveda does consider that constipation. Might happen more than once a day, but it should happen at least once a day. So it's not just this act that happens every day, it's also the quality, and we will get into the nuances of that. Okay, so digestive fire, very tied to elimination, and we really want to honor this process in our body. We don't want it to be a side back burner. Maybe it's a daily occurrence, maybe it's not. It's an indication of whether we're getting nourished properly, and that is just vitally important to our feeling of moving through the day, feeling balanced, feeling energized, feeling gratified and satisfied. You know, all of these qualities that promote and support sattva, which is always something we want to bring more and more of. So if we're moving through our day feeling heavy and sluggish, that's a sign that maybe there's some tamas going on in the body. And if we're restless and irritable, that's more of a sign of rajas. So we're always looking at these factors and balancing them and trying to bring in more of this sattva quality. So how do we invite proper elimination in? Well, we do it very gently, like we do with sattva. Nothing's forced, nothing's too abrupt, nothing's too anything. It's very gentle. It's this Goldilocks theme of having things not too hot, not too cold, not too spicy, not flavorless. Not too much food, not too little food. So it's just about finding this balance for each of us, which is an individual balance, and it changes throughout the seasons and throughout our lives. So we just learn to work with it and play with it. So sipping warm water. We've talked about this on these Sadhana Tuesdays before. It's a big topic, thirst and water and how much we drink and what are the qualities that we look for in the fluid that we take into our body. So Ayurveda recommends sipping warm water throughout the day. And it doesn't have to just be water. We can have, a little bit of fruit juice. We can have digestive teas. But we do want these fluids to generally be room temperature or warm. And we want to sip when we're thirsty rather than drinking because we're trying to get fluids in our body. So we let it be a subtle cue from the body to sip when we're thirsty. And we start this first thing in the morning, which is also when we're hopefully having our daily elimination. First thing in the morning, we've talked about this on the Sadhana Tuesdays also. It's a very important time of the day for Ayurveda. Rising before the sun can offer us a lot of sattva, a lot of benefit to help us get through the day. And here's another one, is daily elimination. So as the sun rises, Shunyaji talks about how The sun promotes all of these wonderful things for us, and one of them is it initiates a bowel movement. So that might or might not be happening for you, but just let that little seed plant in your mind that that is one of the gifts that the sun offers. A lot of animals, if you observe pets, they want to go out first thing in the morning. So sometimes elimination can happen just getting out of bed from sheer gravity. Sometimes it can happen with the rising sun. And sometimes you need the aid of a little bit of warm water. So we do start the day with some warm water, and that helps open the channels in our body. It helps get things moving, which can help with that morning elimination. We also eat warm, nourishing foods. So in Ayurveda, we sip water throughout the day to get some of that fluid intake, but really we want to get most of the fluid intake with our food. So sitting down and having a sandwich with a glass of water is not the same thing as sitting down and having a bowl of soup or a bowl of khichdi that has been cooked with vegetables and grains, and all of those foods integrate with each other and they become a different product. Alchemy occurs in cooking. And when we get that moist fluid in a meal, it's different than having it just through water. Our body doesn't have to work as hard to digest the food that's in with that meal, and it doesn't have to work as hard to assimilate the fluid. So we are big advocates of warm, nourishing foods, soups, stews, porridges, which are really delicious food. Sometimes it's not that exciting, but we're really not looking for exciting food in the world of Ayurveda. We're looking for food that makes us feel good in a long-term sustainable way. So any way you can bring more of those into your meals. And it's okay to have fresh fruit and nuts and other foods. We just like to focus on our main meals having this more stewy texture. Another way we bring in this gentle sattva for healthy elimination is having a mostly vegetarian diet. So it's certainly not a requirement to have good digestion, to live a sattvic life. Some people have been eating meat their entire life and they're accustomed to it, and they actually need it. And that's perfectly fine. But eating a vegetarian diet does promote more sattva. So you can just measure the quantity and the quality and the frequency of how much non-vegetarian food you want to have. And then the quality of our food. We want to eat fresh and organic food, and we want to eat food that's properly cooked. Food should be cooked in a kitchen that's clean and tidy, and hopefully by someone who is feeling like they want to nourish people, someone who's not agitated, who's not feeling down. You want someone who's in a sattvic state of mind, cooking your food to get the most nourishment from it. Regular meal times is also very important to healthy elimination. So the body doesn't really understand when we sleep in on the weekend or skip a meal. It mostly wants routine, and it's going to function best on its routine. And that routine might change seasonally. It might change throughout our life, the different seasons of our life. But we keep an eye on keeping that routine steady so the body can count on it. Exercise is also really helpful for healthy elimination and digestion, keeping everything moving in the body, keeping circulation going. And exercise is a different thing for each of us. Some people can do more rigorous exercise and benefit from them, while other people are going to do more gentle exercises. But one thing that we can do that isn't exactly exercise, but it is movement, and it really does help with digestion, is taking 100 steps after each meal. So this is a big Ayurveda tenet around healthy digestion. And 100 steps is not a lot. It kind of sounds like a lot, but if you clear your table and do the dishes, you're probably getting your 100 steps in. So that's a nice way to do. Save up for your family or whoever you're eating with to offer to do the dishes, and you know you get those 100 steps in, and it just helps that meal start to digest and gets things flowing. Another thing that is about some movement for digestion is chewing your food properly. Shunyaji says her Baba used to chew his food 27 times before he swallowed it. And if you care to practice that, it's a lot. It takes a lot of mindfulness to stay with chewing a bite of food 27 times. And you'll notice the food changes a lot in your mouth if you do that, because we really start digesting that food in our mouth when we chew it that many times. So it's giving our Agni and our belly a big boost to have that food already partially digested. And we also release a lot of enzymes in our mouth. So when we're chewing our food properly, there's more enzymes that are going to aid with that. So it's just a super easy thing you can do, even if you just chew it a few extra times. And then another thing for healthy elimination is having a pleasing environment. So that's a pleasing kitchen that you're cooking in, creating a nice environment for preparing a meal. So having it clean and tidy, maybe lighting a candle, playing a mantra, or offering a blessing over the food before you start cooking it to make it nourishing. And the same for the table. Have the table be pleasing, have the conversation be pleasing, or even better is eating in silence. So just bringing a lot of mindfulness to make the food more sattvic. Simple things, but they make a difference. And then some reasons why you might not be eliminating regularly, or I don't want to say properly, maybe not having the healthiest bowel movement. So that could be what you're eating. Salads and raw food are very, very tempting, but they're not the easiest to digest, and they can become a liability very easy unless you have very good, strong Agni. So they're not highly recommended in Ayurveda. Highly processed food, really any processed food, is not recommended. We like the food to be fresh food from the store, freshly cooked food that's put in front of us. So we avoid stale food. We avoid leftovers, and really leftovers is anything that hasn't been cooked in the last 4 or 5 hours. So we really try to eat our food fresh at every meal. And sometimes that means eating very simply, and that's okay. And then eating heavy food, also something that can be a great liability to our digestion. And eating cold food. So, leftovers are often put in the refrigerator so they don't go bad, and then we heat them. So that's food that probably doesn't have a lot of prana left in it. It's been stored cold where it loses its prana, it becomes tamasic, and then we reheat it. So it's no longer cold food, but it essentially has all the elements of the cold food in it. And then we don't want to eat food that is just from the refrigerator, even if we're eating a piece of fruit. Or drinking some fruit juice or something that was stored in the refrigerator. Try to take it out and let it come to room temperature before you eat it. So your body doesn't have to do that hard work to bring that food up to your body's temperature before it can start breaking it down. It has to work a lot harder when it has to heat that food up. And then when we eat, are we eating on a schedule, or is our eating kind of erratic? Are we doing late night eating? Are we skipping meals and then eating meals really close together, or having a lot of snacking because we skipped a meal? Ayurveda really recommends we eat our food when the sun is up, because there's a big tie with our Agni, our digestive fire, and the sun. So the sun is an aid to our Agni. So when it's in the sky, we have more capacity to digest our food properly. So we try to eat our meals when the sun is up. So that breakfast, maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30, and then we try to eat dinner before the sun sets, although that's not always feasible in the winter months. So we say before 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the evening. But anything later than that would be considered late night eating. And we don't want to eat at least 2 hours before bed, because then we haven't had time to digest that meal before we lie down to sleep. And we really want to give our Agni a rest when we sleep. We don't want it to have to be working all day and even when we're sleeping. There's a lot of talk out there now about the health benefits of intermittent fasting. And if you eat when the sun is up, or if you even eat breakfast at 8 and dinner at 6, you're really doing intermittent fasting. You know, it's not called that, but it's really essentially this intermittent fasting. So it's very, very helpful to follow these guidelines. And then our portion size, how much we're eating, can be a liability to healthy digestion. So that's going to be unique for each of us, but we don't want to feel full. We just want to feel satisfied. So that's a very subtle thing to get in touch with, and it can take some mindfulness, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, to bring more mindfulness to all these aspects of our life. So it might take a few times of eating in silence. We might try eating more slowly if we're a quick eater, but we might try eating a little more quickly if we're a very slow eater. You know, maybe half an hour is a good time to measure how long you're going to eat your meal, you know, from sitting down to getting up. So you can play with all these factors and see, like, wow, am I really eating enough? Am I getting hungry soon after I'm eating, or am I just eating because this food is on my plate and because it tastes good, but I really don't need to eat this much food? So there's a lot of subtleties around that you can play with. And that will probably change throughout the seasons also, as our Agni changes throughout the seasons. And then how we eat. Are we eating on the go? Are we eating mindlessly while we're on our phone or watching TV or talking to people, not really paying attention to the fact that we're doing something that is a really important ritual for our nourishment? And then poor emotional state can also impact how we digest our food. There's a lot of research out there now that says our stomach is actually our second brain. There's a lot of nerve endings in our stomach, and this just supports that when we have a lot of grief or sadness or we're angry, we're going to bring some of that tamas or some of that rajas into the nourishment that our food's offering us. So we would like our mind to be in the most sattvic state that we can get it in before we sit down to have our meal. So sometimes we can maybe take a moment to be in silence or offer a prayer to try to bring a little more balance into our mental state before we eat. And timing, starting our day quietly and mindfully can flow into healthy elimination. So we talked about the rising sun, but also creating some spaciousness in the morning. So if you have a morning meditation practice, or maybe you take a meditative walk in the morning, you know, something gentle that's not rushed, that allows for some spaciousness. We don't want elimination to be something that just happens as we're moving through our morning and we stop and make a few minutes for it. We really want to encourage it and honor it. So we might need to make some time to make sure that it happens. And sometimes it's a window of opportunity. And if you don't take advantage of that window of opportunity, you don't have another one until the next day. So really pay attention to that and try to reinforce this as a daily practice. And if you don't have an elimination on a given day, you might pay a little more attention that day to drinking your warm water. Maybe you have some digestive tea. Maybe you soak a few raisins in warm water and have them before you go to bed at night to help make sure that you do eliminate the next day. And you maybe eat lighter meals that day, because now you're putting a new day's food on top of the food that you didn't eliminate the day before. So this is something to pay attention to. And then natural urges. This kind of feeds into the suppression of natural urges that can happen very easily around all the bodily functions: sneezing, coughing, crying, burping, flatulence, yawning, urination, and defecation. We don't want to suppress any of these natural urges. It's the body trying to express itself. It wants to release something. And if we do not let it release whatever it is, then it creates blockages in the channels in the body. And they can be very subtle, but if they are ignored over time, they can create their own imbalances. So very, very important to honor the body's natural urges. And then our emotions can affect our elimination. They can affect our rajas and tamas. So when we're feeling out of sorts, it can impact our elimination. So all the more reason to try to stay in that sattvic state of mind as best we can. Okay, so signs of healthy digestion and elimination. So feeling hungry and feeling thirsty. So this isn't like ravaging hunger or, really dry mouth. We don't want to let the body get to that stage. That's going to create its own rajas and tamas. But just, inklings of hunger and thirst are good. It means our digestion's doing its job, and it's digesting that meal, and it's complete, and now it's hungry and it's ready for refueling. It's ready for the next meal. So if you never feel hungry, you might have dull agni. And some people just do have dull agni. Some people have very sharp digestion, and they need to eat bigger meals or they become very irritable. They just don't tolerate feeling hungry, and they digest their food more quickly. And some people have dull agni, and that shows up in elimination. Usually if you have dull agni, you might be more prone to constipation. So you can work with spices more to help improve your digestion, to help move things along. So some of this becomes tailored to your unique person when it starts to be a problem. Daily bowel movement, that's a sign of healthy digestion. It might be twice a day, and some people with very strong digestion might even eliminate after every meal. But really, I would be on the watch if you eliminate more than twice a day, that you might be having too strong agni, in which case you would keep an eye out for that. Healthy sign of digestion is feeling good energy throughout the day, feeling vital, and that feeling staying fairly even throughout the day. And you might have a little dip in the afternoon during the vata time, but mostly you want to have a nice, even energy. And it's consistent from day to day. Positive attitude. If our digestion is off, it can make us really irritable. It can be very distracting to us. It can create discomfort in the body. So having ease in our digestion, ease in our elimination kind of feeds a positive attitude, and a positive attitude will actually help us do the things that support healthy elimination. And then our tongue. My tongue scraper, and I forgot to bring it. Our tongue is an excellent barometer for our digestion. If you don't have a tongue scraper, I highly suggest you get one. They're maybe $5 or $6 online. And it's just a little piece of metal that you put towards the back of your tongue and you scrape. So we recommend you do that first thing in the morning, and take a look at your tongue before you do it. If you have some white coating on your tongue, then that's a sign that you have some stagnation in your digestion. And that's not a great thing. It means you haven't quite properly digested your meal from the prior day. So this is just such a good gauge on where your digestion is. So then you use that tongue scraper and you scrape some of that coating off. And that helps clear some of that stagnation. But really, that's a sign, kind of like if you miss a bowel movement for the day, it's a sign, oh, I need to be a little more careful today because my Agni was not great yesterday or wasn't great last night. So you're going to sip warm water a little more that day because that warm water helps stimulate your Agni. Maybe eat a little bit lighter that day, pay attention to snacking, just pay a little more attention. And you'll get the rhythm of what your tongue normally looks like when your digestion is regular and healthy. And it's really amazing. Like I can go to a party or just have an off emotional night, do something out of the ordinary and look at my tongue the next morning. And it's just right there showing me like, yep, you had a little hiccup in your digestion and you need to get back on track. So I'm going to talk about the nuts and bolts now of what healthy elimination actually like really looks like. And it is a well-formed banana in one solid piece, smooth. There shouldn't be pieces of undigested food in it. It should be light to medium brown, and it might kind of half float, half sink, or float, and maybe even like a little bit of like oiliness looking to the texture. So that's like a ideal bowel movement. And if you're not sure what your bowel movements look like, then you need to start taking a look, because this is the only way you're going to know. And this is also an excellent gauge on how you're digesting your food. So if your bowel movements are sinking, or if they're sticky, if they're foul smelling, if they're loose and there's undigested food in them, then this is often a sign that you have what we call which is toxins in your food. So this could be from foods that were not properly digested. So maybe your Agni was just compromised. Maybe you were really upset that day and you didn't digest your food properly. It can be from foods that don't agree with you, foods that are just heavy and rich, too much fat, maybe too much spice or too pungent, really too anything. We want this balanced approach to our eating. So we can help regulate this with making sure we get back to regular meal timings, making sure we're digesting our food before we eat the next meal. So that's usually at least 2 hours. And if you're not sure, try eliminating your snacking and really waiting to see when you start to feel that inkling of hunger. Snacking is okay in Ayurveda, but it's certainly not required. We should only snack if we think we need it. These digestive teas can be very helpful, and even just sipping warm water can be helpful. Having a few pieces of fennel that you chew on, can help your Agni. There's lots and lots of little things that you can do. And then if your stools are hard, if they're hard to pass, if they feel dry, if they're in small pieces, broken up, small pieces kind of stuck together in a clump, then this is signs of constipation. And you should definitely address this. And one of the easiest ways to do this is by start having these moist, stewy meals. Really back away from dry foods. So back away from packaged foods and chips and bread and crackers. Nature didn't really provide a lot of dry foods for us in what she offers. They're usually kind of the man-made, manipulated stuff. So back away from those things. Grilled meat can also be hard to digest and drying. So start taking the things out that don't work and replacing them with this more moist, more natural, more foods that Mother Nature provides. And sometimes sometimes that makes a big difference, and everything happens more easily that way without having to take any big steps. And then I also want to mention looking at like the quality of your food, really paying attention to the quality. So really making sure you're having fresh food from the market and really having freshly prepared food. That's so important. So if we're eating out, we have no idea how long that food has been on their shelves, whether it came out of a can, which is very tamasic and doesn't have a lot of energy left in it. Frozen food, it might be in the refrigerator for a long time and they're just reheating it. And then you also have no idea the state of their kitchen or the mental state of the people who are cooking that food. So the more you can cook your food at home or eat food cooked by someone who you know and who loves you, the better opportunity you're going to have at having really good quality food, because the quality can make a tremendous difference. So these beneficial spices, turmeric, ginger, Himalayan salt, black pepper, really incorporating spices into your meals is like sprinkling your food with medicine. Fresh coriander, sprinkling lemon on top. Some of the foods we're recommending, like in Ayurvedic lifestyle wisdom, they're not really exciting foods when you consider what's available in restaurants, all the variety and all the amazing taste that our tongue is used to. But we make our food delicious with these simple offerings, putting pomegranate seeds on your soup, on your khichdi. Make them yummy with what Mother Nature has to offer in very simple ways. And our body responds to that. So back to this Goldilocks approach of just keeping it not to this and not to that, learning to really appreciate the in-between that works for your body, that feels nourishing, that feels gentle, that feels calming. That's what our aim is.